Welcome to the Heartful Parent Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Keating. In this podcast, we talk about it all, our parenting, our partnering, and our professional lives, because they are all a part of us, and we were never meant to do this alone.
Hey friend, welcome back to the Heartful Parent Podcast. So happy to have you, yes, you, here today. At the time that you are listening to this, assuming that you're listening to this episode shortly after it has been released, I am actually on vacation with my family, with my husband and my daughters for spring break. And we are taking a much needed break after kind of a challenging few months with some childcare challenges, some family members with health issues, and my assistant having to have surgery, and just a variety of things going on. But we are coming out of the fog and taking a little break, a little much needed break before the big event that is just around the corner from May 6th to May 10th, which is the second annual Safe Parenting Summit. Now, if you joined me last year for the Safe Parenting Summit, you know that it is a week chock full of incredible interviews from incredible experts who talk about online safety, brain safe parenting, risk appropriate parenting, safer world parenting, and sexual health and safety. It's a week full of learning and growth and inspiration and a way to step out of some of the fear that often comes up for us in the parenting space. If you weren't with us for 2023, you are in for a treat in 2024. As I said, the Safe Parenting Summit, the second annual Safe Parenting Summit, is launching May 6th. It's free. It's free to attend, and tickets will be available starting April 17th, I believe. So just around the corner. It's 5 days. There are nearly 30 experts. I will be speaking several times throughout the summit, and there's some really phenomenal things. Make sure that you go to safeparentingsummit.com right now, get your name on the waiting list so that you will be among the first to hear that tickets have gone on sale, or that ticket and registration is open. Now, I will note that when you register, it is totally free. I wanted to make sure that this was accessible to anyone and everyone. That being said, if you would like to have lifetime access to the episodes in the Safe Parenting Summit, along with nearly $5,000 worth of bonuses from all of our speakers, things like courses, live sessions, question and answer sessions, incredible PDFs and workbooks, just a host of really incredible bonuses. Like I said, valued at nearly $5,000. Oh, bonus interviews. I did bonus interviews with some of our speakers. Then you will want to buy the very important Parent Pass. And you can do that if you do that in the first 30 minutes, right after you right after you register for the summit. It's only $67. If you wait till the week of the summit, the price goes up. In fact, if you don't buy it in the first 30 minutes after you register, the price goes up. So make sure you jump on that. But here's the deal. Because I am on vacation this week, and because the summit is right around the corner, I wanted to both share a little bit of information about the summit with you, but I also wanted to give you a little bit of a teaser. So what I'm going to be doing for this week is sharing with you an interview that I did last year in 2023 for the first annual Safe Parenting Summit. So I'm really thrilled to introduce you to Melissa Griffin, also known as HR Mom. And in this interview, Melissa talks to you about helping your child develop independence, helping them learn the skill of speaking up, helping them really become competent, capable, confident young adults and older adults, right? Many of us are afraid to let our kids dive into adult tasks. And Melissa talks about all the reasons why we need to do this and the ways that we can do it that aren't so scary for us and aren't so scary for our kids.
I am so excited
I loved this interview with Melissa last year, and I'm really thrilled for you to meet her, to learn more about her, and to hear all the phenomenal advice, about information,
raising
and wisdom
real
that she
world
has to
ready
share with you.
kids
I'm
who
really
can
excited for you
successfully
to hear this
into
interview.
adulthood.
So without
She
further
uses
ado,
humor and real life
Melissa
examples to help parents
Enjoy.
and educators build a child's critical life skills and independence from a young age, and believes that parents are most effective when they stop parenting and start leading. And as those of you who have been attending other sessions of the summit will know, it was really important to me in putting the summit together that we weren't just talking about the things to worry about or body safety issues, but that we were really talking about these brain safety issues and how do we raise healthy, happy, whole kids that are ready for the world. And that is what Melissa is here to talk about. So Melissa, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to have been invited and to be a part of this event.
I am really excited to dig into this because I have been following you on social media for a while and years, really, and love sort of the perspective that you bring to this because you did work in HR. You did see what we're making hires and seeing what was happening as people came up. So I want to dig into all of that, but let's really get to the backstory here. How did you become HR mom?
Thank you. So I was in recruiting and talent acquisition hiring in corporate America for almost 20 years. And most of that time I was spent hiring in the entry-level space. So these are young adults, their first real professional positions, not restaurants and serving, but your first call center job, your first job working at a Petco store, for example. And what we were noticing especially over the last 10 years is a steady decline in the skill set that was built in. So we would say when someone comes in at this age, they've already got these skills. And we were noticing a lack of just your basic communication skills, interpersonal conflict skills, just answering the phone, etc. And I started writing about it. I started saying there is a trend here. We're noticing it no matter what the industry is. And I think it can be traced back to some of the more modern parenting styles. I started writing about it and then a few posts went viral. And I said, there's a space for this. Parents who want their kids to be capable, but just don't know how much letting go is appropriate. And how do we teach independence and keep them safe? And that's my niche on the internet now as HR mom, is helping parents know how to do this.
Which I love so much because I, in my coaching practice, so often see parents who are stuck in that rut of overdoing for their children, doing things for their kids that their kids are capable of doing for themselves, which doesn't set them up well.
Right.
I'd love to, you mentioned some of the talking on the phone, basic communication skills. Were there other specific skills that you saw that were really missing from this generation of new workers, for lack of a better word?
Yes. So some of these are easy to teach, right? How to put people on hold and how to talk on the phone. But some of the more concerning skills or the more important ones are just this inability or lack of confidence navigating unknown situations. So we can't train on every scenario that can pop up. You're just going to have to make decisions on the fly. And we're noticing a decreased confidence in making decisions without being able to consult your people or take time and craft a response, this on-the-spot decision-making. And then just an unprecedented level of anxiety, the frequency of anxiety attacks in the workplace, people on leave for anxiety, around really just speaking up for yourself. Ability to say, I'm going to self-advocate, something's not going well, and I don't know how to navigate it. That's kind of one of the more concerning skills that we're seeing lacking in the workplace.
Yeah, because that ability to self-advocate, we've talked about that a lot through this summit in terms of helping kids be safer. And of course, when it comes to body safety, and a number of speakers have said this, that's a parent's job. It's an adult's job to keep
kids safe in that respect. But that ability to advocate is still really important for them because we won't always be there.
It's really important. And when I say advocacy in the workplace, you think these are adults. It could be things like my computer isn't working well, or I don't have the resources I need, or I've talked about I have ADHD and I need some simple accommodations, but I have to have the confidence to use my voice to ask for those. So it leaves this lack of skill set. It's not about how they can't succeed for the corporation. It's about them feeling safe, them doing the best work that they can do. And then there's some minor examples, but some major examples is if you're being mistreated at work, if you are seeing others who aren't being treated properly, or you don't understand your benefits, there are some pretty big consequences for not being able to use your voice at work. And we want to make sure that we can set our kids up for success for that before they ever get to that situation.
Well, and I'm guessing that there's probably even some parents listening who are like, oh yeah, I don't even know always how to do that for myself, and thinking, oh, this is a skill that we can teach our kids. We think about a child or really young children. And of course, for this summit, we've got parents of kiddos as young as 4, as old as 14, and may have kids on either side of that as well. What risks does that inability to use that voice put our children at when they're kids? And then how is that translating into the workplace?
Yeah, it's important that we use the word skill because we forget that this is something that can be taught. And I think sometimes we think we have extroverted kids and we have introverted kids. This is going to come naturally to some and not to others. And the fact is, it's a skill that has to be taught. And it starts with a child being taught that your voice matters. What you say matters. Your ideas and your opinions are important, and the world needs those. So this is the foundational conscious parenting of that your opinions matter. That's a shift from when I was younger, we just said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And we just stayed quiet and we waited until we were grown up for our opinions to matter. So that's where that starts, is a foundation of my voice matters. It keeps our kids safe because they know I am worthy of taking up space. I'm worthy of having my needs met. So when they are not being met or I am not being given space or respect, I feel that I have a right to advocate for myself. Mm-hmm. And so kids who feel empowered to do that and know how to do it, they can say, this thing is happening that makes me uncomfortable. This thing is happening that makes me upset. I don't feel safe at school. My teacher's not being fair to me. Or I can tell the doctor or the nurse what hurts in my body. I can ask for directions when I'm lost. I can get myself to safety faster than someone who's worried about whether they should say something or worried about whether what they have to say matters or should they listen to that voice inside of them. It's bigger than just physical safety here. It's the whole picture of feeling safe because they know that they have the power inside to create that safety for themselves right away because they deserve it.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much because that idea that I deserve to take space in the world, my voice matters. And you're right. When I was being raised, and it sounds like you as well, there was often that you say yes, because that's what you're expected to say to your parents or adults. That and even earlier generations, that sort of kids are meant to be seen, not heard.
Or this must be safe because the adults around me seem to be putting up with it. This must be right. This must be safe.
Yes.
And we're teaching our kids a different way.
Yeah. Which, as you said, it makes them safer both when they're young and then when they enter the workforce, the workspace, and adult relationships, which is all factors into that safety. I'm guessing that there isn't a single parent out there listening to this who's, oh yeah, I don't really care about my kid being safe. I don't want them to feel like they have a voice or that they deserve to take up room in the world. And yet, many of us as parents really struggle in making the connection between believing that our kids deserve to have a voice and to take space, and then letting them have a voice and take space and teaching, as you said, that skill. Can you talk a little bit about how parents can start with those younger kids or even the tweens and teens, if they haven't started it yet, in teaching their kids that skill of using their voice, speaking in public, advocating for themselves?
You bet. You always say the best time to start this is right when your kids first learn how to speak. And the second best time to start is today. And so it's never too late to start. It first starts with believing that my kids have the right to speak and I'm going to let them speak. And it's going to trigger something inside of me. It may trigger something inside of me that says, I wasn't allowed to speak up like this. This was called talking back.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, these kids get to say things I was never allowed to say. It feels disrespectful. It feels like they're butting up against authority. We have to say, it's a skill they're learning and they're going to skin their knees a few times. They're going to lead with their chins, right?
Yeah.
Until they're good at it, they're not going to realize when is the right time? What's the right tone? We're going to have to be willing to let them make mistakes through this. That's the first thing. It sometimes frustrates me or makes me jealous when my daughter has more rights than I did at her age. And I'm going, oh, I would have never said that to my father. But guess what? I want her to speak up for herself way sooner than I learned in my 20s.
Yes.
This is the difference because that's number one. Number two is it's really important for us to forget or lose sight of what our kids are actually capable of. So we have to realize how easy it is for us to do things for them. They're perfectly capable of doing for themselves, either out of habit or we just don't notice, or it's just faster.
Yep.
And then we do things for them that they can almost do for themselves. So she can almost pack her own suitcase without making a single mistake, but I'm just packing it for her. So they just need a little bit of guidance and encouragement, and we're doing it for them. First is recognizing that there are way more of those than we even realize.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, getting change, asking for a refill, RSVPing for the birthday party. They're capable of doing all of these things. They can order their own food. They can answer questions when people ask them, and we just answer for them. Or we speak for them at the hair salon. We speak for them at the doctor's office. We need to say, okay, starting today at this summit, this is very actionable. I'm going to say, I am my own person and voice, and my child is his or her own person and voice. And when we're at a restaurant, I need food and I order my food. They're a separate person who also needs food. What do they need to say or know, or what skills do they need to get their food? And I'm going to hands off and I'm going to teach or coach them through it. But it's easy just to think, I'm here with my family. We all need food. I'm the leader and I'm going to order it for everyone. And it's just taking that opportunity away from them over and over to make this an easy, natural skill.
Yes. Yeah. I often think, and I think this myself, and I hear parents say this, I can do it better. I can do it faster, and I can do it cleaner. Right? Especially with young kids. And that's true. But when we step back from that, like what's the message that we're sending when we do for them? I love the idea of just starting with those simple things, letting them order food, letting them pick out their clothing. I think we could probably come up with 1,000 different examples where we jump in and maybe we don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're getting started with this, I like to say, let's set a vision for them and let's let them know things are going to feel different before we just all of a sudden go, you're 12. You should be doing this for yourself. Whoa. Wow, my mom must have gone to a parenting summit and there's a new sheriff in town. We don't want that. We want to set a vision for them. Hey, your voice matters. The world needs to know what you have to say. When I'm not here, I want you to know how to use this voice so you can be heard, you can get what you need, and you can keep yourself safe. But that's not going to happen overnight. So when we start wanting to teach these skills, what we don't want is for our kids to go, what happened? Mom's all of a sudden not helping me. Dad's left me on my own. What's going on? We want to say to them, hey, I got some new information. Or I had a realization, or I've noticed you're getting more mature and you're growing up and you're ready to do more things on your own. Your voice matters and the world needs to hear what you have to say, but it's my job to teach you how to use that voice. So I'm going to start giving you some more opportunities to do that. How does that sound? Does that make you nervous? What kind of things do you think you might need help with? Here's what I want to do. I want you to be heard. I want you to get what you need. And I want you to be able to help keep yourself safe. And so I'm thinking the next time you need something in public, I'm going to help you. We'll coach, we'll practice it. I'm going to give you some situations where you can speak for yourself. And if your child is older than you wish you had started sooner, you can say, hey, I wish I had started this sooner. You've been ready for a while. It is very hard for us to realize when we're doing things for you that you're capable of. How's that sound? So get them involved in that. This is because I see something in you that you're ready for the next step. You're ready for independence. It's an honor. It's that they've earned it. As opposed to, you're 12 years old. You should be ordering your own food.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this for you anymore.
Yeah, which just feels really off-putting to our kid. It doesn't build the connection in that. And then they're not as open to that skill building.
Yeah, you're going to be driving soon and you don't even know how to. No, we don't want any of that. We want this to say, little by little, you're going to want independence. But that's going to require that I know that you can speak up and keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Before I'm going to give you keys, I've got to know that wherever you drive, you can handle these scenarios. So I'm going to help you with these skills.
So good. I'm thinking about my two kids. As I'm sure attendees have heard me say, I have a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old. And even the 5-year-old is, of course, we weren't going out to restaurants very much the last couple of years because of COVID, but she's abundantly capable of deciding what she wants to eat and placing that order, even at age 5.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we want to start with, let's talk about our littles, especially you're in the perfect example. You have a 5-year-old, but as far as executive functioning and being out in public and interacting with strangers, she probably has the skill set of a 3-year-old, I would say, if she's the average pandemic kiddo. My daughter had at least 2 years of delay when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. So what we want to start with are the mechanics. We want to say, first things, you got to know what you want. So let's look at the menu together. What do you want? Then they're going to ask you for a side. Here are the choices. What do you want? And they're going to ask you for a drink. What do you want? That gets them to, okay, they have to know what they want. That's step 1.
Yeah.
Then they have to be seen and they have to be heard. So we want to teach them the mechanics. To be seen, you've got to be standing in the right place, or we're going to raise our hand. Make sure that the server sees you, that makes eye contact with you, or that they can hear you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we say, then you have to be heard. So think about how loud it is. And this is what I tell my little bitties, is you're going to point your voice to their ear. So your voice is a line and you point it to their ear. Or I would say, point your voice to where you want it to go. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking down, they can't hear you. Point your voice where you want it to go.
Yeah.
And that sounds so basic, but kids who have their hands in their mouths or or they look down or they put their hair in front of their face because they're nervous, we can say that blocks your voice. Yeah. And always talk louder than you think, because what you're saying is important and there's people around, there's noise. Speak louder than you think you need to. So we start with mechanics. And then we practice out loud. We have done so much role play. I have an 18-year-old who just moved away, 14-year-old, first year in high school, and an 8-year-old. And so I'm in 3 very different worlds here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And my oldest has had years of role playing and practicing out loud. My youngest, we're new at it. And you just want to say, let's practice out loud. Pretend I'm your server. What would you like to eat today? And that's what role playing can look like. And then we want to teach them to listen. They're going to repeat back, or they're going to ask you follow-up questions. We want to listen. And then we want to be kind. So we want to smile, or we want to say thank you. Just the mechanics. Which now can go, okay. Because here's a mistake, Christy, that a lot of parents make. We assume that our kids are learning by watching us. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, until they know that they're supposed to be learning this, they're coloring on the sheet. They're really not learning and listening and absorbing as much as we might think they are. So we go, because if all of a sudden you said you're ordering your own food, they go, even though they've heard you do it 1,000 times, they need to be taught. Now I'm paying attention. Yeah. And now that I know that after mom orders and dad orders, it's going to be my turn to order, I'm paying attention in a whole new way.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds, when you say it, it sounds so obvious, right? That we need to teach them some of these skills. And yet I know I'm not alone in that sometimes we just forget. You're right. Or we assume that they're learning by watching. And then when we ask them to do it, they go, oh, I don't know how to do that. And then they freeze, which raises those levels of anxiety, which I know you mentioned seeing sort of increased rates of that in the workforce as well. When you're doing the role playing, so you role played with us, the putting your voice towards their ear or pointing the voice toward the ear. and walking through that with them. What are some of you've got an 18-year-old who's off on their own now. What are some of the other role plays that you have found yourself doing with your children over the years that might be helpful to us?
You bet. It sounds awkward and formal and like you go first, then I go first, but it really sounds more like this. Before we get to the counter, I'll say, okay, do you know what you want? Okay, we'll do all that talking together. And I'll say, how are you going to say it? She'll say, I want 2 tacos with bean and the cheese and the ones with, and that's awkward and fumbly. And we'll say, okay, so say it again. That sounds much more clear. Or you might use these words instead. Excellent. It could sound like this. Hey, now when we get to the counter, she's going to say, how can I help you? What are you going to say? More milk, please. And hand her your cup. That's right. And then what do you say? Thank you. Okay, you're ready. It's right in the line 4 feet before she gets to the front.
Yeah.
But with an older child, it might be like, hey, the jeans we bought are too small, so you're going to need to return them. Do you know how to do that? Not really. And so we're in the car and he's 13, 14, and we say, all right, she's going to say, how can I help you? You're going to say, what? And then he says it to me. I need to return these jeans. And I'll say, what's wrong with them? So I'm not telling him what he's going to say. I'm just telling him, here's probably what she's going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that when he gets up there, he's not taken completely off guard.
Yeah.
But remember, he's 14. So he has years of building up to this. And I'll say, do you have the receipt? He's yes. Do you want an exchange or do you want money back on the card? So I'll just pretend I'm the cashier. I don't tell him what to say. We just practice it together.
Yeah.
And then I'll say things like, is this your mom's card? And just, in other words, let's do all the fumbling when we're together in the car and it's safe versus making them fumble in front of a stranger. Because what that will do is make them not want to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most recent example is I say, okay, let's practice. Okay, ring. And my daughter says, hi, this is Sadie and I'm coming to Savannah's party. Okay, thank you. See you there.
Yes.
And I'll say, if you want to go to the party, you have to RSVP. What if the voicemail picks up? Let's practice. Ring. And she practices leaving a voicemail. Then we call. And I'm telling you, Christy, you would think the nervousness and the anxiety that she has, and she's like taking a deep breath, and this is a very big deal, but it's just one sentence.
Yep.
When she does it, she realizes it's not that bad. And incremental progress is made.
I love this. And I had an incident happen in my own home, I don't know, maybe a week ago. And my daughter has a prescription medication that she needed to have renewed. And she said, Mom, I need more of this. And this is my older daughter, not my 5-year-old. And I said to her, okay, I think you're ready. You can renew the prescription. And I explained where the prescription number is on the bottle and what she's going to need. And there was some panic because she thought, am I going to have to talk to the pharmacist? And then I was able to explain that for most things, when it comes to this, it's automated, which relieved some of her stress and anxiety. But then I thought, okay, that's a good cue for me that the idea of speaking with that adult on the other end of the phone, if that was causing some nervousness for her, looks like we have some things to practice.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly right. You noticed, okay, there's some discomfort there. Let's lean into that.
Yeah.
And from now on, anything she needs that requires a phone call is a way to teach this skill. And it's a natural, organic opportunity.
Yeah.
We're not creating these fake scenarios that our teenagers just roll their eyes and go, really? We want to lean into their natural motivation to get to go to the party or to get the haircut. Yeah. And we use those moments to say, all right, now let's lean into this training in a natural way that doesn't seem manufactured.
Yeah. Yeah. And it strikes me that's a great way to start addressing that anxiety, the anxiousness overall that you were describing, because they're slowly building up some confidence, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so some parents will say, my kids are just way too anxious to do this, so I do it for them. Or there's no way my daughter would do that. There's no way I could send my child in to do a return at age 14. That's okay. All of our kids are at a different pace. They're at a different place in their journey. But we've got to remember, now I'm not talking about extreme clinical anxiety. I'm talking about run-of-the-mill or even slightly elevated anxiety in social situations.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to remember that most anxiety, not all of it comes from feeling unsafe. A lot of it feels just feeling uncertain and unsure about what's going to happen. And we can't accurately assess the risk of what happens if something goes wrong.
Right.
So this lack of trust in themselves, like they don't know what to do, it can grow the longer we keep them from these situations.
Yeah.
And you and I both know if your child gets to their anxiety or an adult's anxiety gets extreme, when they go into a professional, the therapist will often recommend what we call exposure therapy. And so you expose them to the fear, you sit with it, you sit through it with them and start small. And then they realize, oh, it's not so bad. And then we expose them to a little bit more of the fear. It's not so bad. Exposure. We're saying instead of letting it get so major that a professional has to do this, let's do our own miniature exposure therapy at home when they're little.
Yeah.
To expose them to these uncertain situations. And the more often they do it and get it right or wrong and nothing happens, then the beast is tamed, right?
Such a good point, because as you said, I think a lot of us, it's so hard to watch our kids struggle or be in pain emotionally, and we want to rescue them from that. But what I hear you saying is that it's really important for that long-term skill building and that long-term anxiety management is to actually let them struggle through that a little bit. Not without helping, not without prep, but then letting them figure it out.
That's right. So let's use their natural motivation to push through the initial discomfort. And then when they experience success, we go, fantastic. Look at you. You did it. Or they experience failure and they realize, oh, mom stepped in. Or, oh, I hung up and I'll never speak to this person again. It's not such a big deal. And they can have numerous exposures to success and numerous exposures to failure. They realize the stakes aren't nearly as high as I thought they were. I can handle it, whether it goes well or it doesn't. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. We're going to build on momentum. And then we're going to say, hey, if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong, but I'm 3 steps behind you. And then they can take increasingly bigger risks and put themselves in increasingly more independent situations, knowing the net is pretty close to where I am. The fall is not far. The stakes are very low and my skills are getting better and better.
Yeah. I love that. I often say, like, when it comes to money and dealing with money, we want our kids to make mistakes with money when the stakes are low, rather than when they've got a credit card that they've got access to and getting way into debt. And this strikes me as very much the same thing, as let them experience that failure when the stakes are low, so that when the stakes are higher, they know they can lean into that a little bit more.
Yeah, let's let them fumble around on RSVPing to a Chuck E. Cheese party, but not their first phone interview. Let's let them get used to these things when, who cares if you accidentally get you get ketchup instead of barbecue sauce? Who cares?
Right. That you talk a lot about, and I've seen this on your site, you talk about independence challenges. Can you, and maybe we've been talking about that a little bit here, but can you describe what do you call an independence challenge, and how can parents use that in their own parenting?
Yes. So this is one of my favorite kind of parenting activities with my kids. What we're doing is we're going to, on purpose, put them in situations to build these skills, and we're going to frame it like an adventure or like a game. And what we want to do is put them in situations where the outcome is unknown. We talked about navigating gray areas. And we're going to teach them to use the resources, to read the signs, to ask questions, to figure things out, or to take a moment, or to put someone on hold, or to create space to where they're not having to act on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And once you realize I can create space and make a decision, I can fail in a responsible way, get myself together and re-enter, then your kids will feel like I can face anything. So these challenges, here's what I'm doing. They're a real world activity, and they're designed to be completed by the child almost entirely on their own. They're going to practice a new skill. They're going to stretch their comfort zone, and they're going to make mistakes. And we say that's part of it. That's part of the game and part of the adventure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what it looks like. And I've typed some examples. If you see it, I'm reading.
Okay, great.
It should look like a game. It should look like my mom trusts me. My dad sees potential in me. I'm going to be sent into this thing where if I fail, there's no real failure.
Yeah.
It shouldn't feel like a quiz or a test. It shouldn't feel like they're being put on the spot or they're being pressured or embarrassed. It shouldn't have an unmanageable amount of anxiety tied to it. It shouldn't be a reward or a consequence. Like if you don't do it, you don't get the ice cream. That is wrong. Okay. This is just to learn. It should be fun. And when you come out of this, fail or not, isn't that something we've learned about ourselves? No big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So during this challenge, and I call it that because I had boys at the time. I didn't have my daughter yet. And anything that's a challenge or an adventure is cool. Anything where the parents aren't right behind you, it's all great stories. The kids are on their own.
Yep.
And then I pretend to be invisible. So here's an example. We're going to see if you can pick up my dry cleaning. Oh, okay. So what am I going to do? I'll say, okay, there's a ticket on this piece of paper. Here's the challenge. Can you go in and give them this paper? Say my first and last name. They're going to give you the work. There's no money that's going to be exchanged. You're going to say thank you. You're going to come out to the car. If we're not ready to send a kid in alone, then I would go in and I'd stand close and I would say, I'm going to pretend I'm invisible. So if the adult tries to talk to me, I'll say, I'll just act like I'm not there. Like they're learning because we're trying to get the adults to talk to the children. I smile and I encourage them and I don't rush them. So a great way to do this is self-checkout.
Yes.
Well, we're going to buy 8 or 9 things. I bet you can do it with no help. And I'm going to pretend I'm invisible. And if they get stuck, they're going to turn to you and your instinct is to just do it for them. Nope. I'm going to go. And now they have to read the signs or they have to ask the attendant or they have to weigh it or they've got to really try to figure it out because I'm pretending I'm invisible. And I'm showing them by not rushing them that they're allowed to take up space and they're allowed to take up time. So the people behind you that are waiting for you, their time is not more important than you. So they just need to take a deep breath and they need to know that you matter, you're learning, and you can take up space right now.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s, and if I took too long for anything, I would get so anxious. I would bail on the entire purchase because I was so worried about the people behind me being put out.
Yes.
That's why I couldn't coupon. I couldn't write a check. I couldn't do anything because I was so worried about everybody else's needs, but didn't realize I was worthy of taking up space and asking follow-up questions or saying that my food wasn't satisfactory or anything. So here's the...
Oh, I was just going to say the thing that's so profound about that for me is that it's not just about the skill, right? And the skill's secondary to what you're describing. It's really about that bigger belief that we're helping them form, which, as you just said, is that they deserve to take up space. They are worthy of the time. Yes. Their time and space is as valuable as anybody else's. And man, that is more important than knowing how to self-check, which I still struggle with.
Yep. It's not that I need you to know how to order pizza. It's that I need you to know how to navigate situations where you might be asked something that you don't immediately know the answer to. So when you get to work and you don't understand your benefits, you know how to ask questions, use your resources, research. When you're in a situation where I don't know if I should leave this party, if I should stay, if I should call an Uber, should I ask how can I keep myself safe in this moment? I deserve to feel safe in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And if every child could walk into the world with that fundamental belief, I deserve to feel safe in this moment and every other moment, man, this summit will have accomplished what I would hope for. I want to go back for just a minute because you mentioned, and I neglected to dig in a little further to this idea of helping them navigate gray areas. So we talked a lot about like role playing. How do you get the dry cleaning or how do you return the pair of pants that's too small? And those are situations where we as adults generally know how that's going to unfold and can walk them through that. How do we start to teach or give them more experience with those situations where we don't know how it's going to unfold? Sure. We don't know if they'll take the pants back or not.
Some of it is we stand back And we watch them fumble for a minute. They're like, she's asking me something and I don't know. And I can say, what do you think? And I'll be like, pick one. So here's an example. My kids went in and I had them, you each get 1 pint of ice cream and you can pick the flavor and it's in a bin and it's a gas station and they were just old enough to be sent in, but I would only send them in a place with 1 door in and 1 door out. So the dry cleaners and the gas station are my favorites. And there was a buy 3, get 1 free, or buy 3, get them for cheaper. And they had to make a decision. Mom said to only get 2, but if you do this, if you get 3, it's only a little bit more. They had to make a call and they came out. And I was like, you made a decision. I told you to only get 2. I really only wanted you to get 2 and you got 3. You know what? It's going to be nice having extra ice cream around. Good job. You made a decision. You didn't know. You didn't know if I was going to be angry. You didn't know if I had enough money for that. You made a call. Good for you. You made a call. Or, gosh, you made the wrong call. It was a limit of 10, so you gobbled up 10 of them. We can return the other 6. That way they can know. I just have to make a decision. And it might be bad and it might be good. It can always be fixed. But I'm going to just trust myself and make a call. So I've sent my sons in for a short grocery trip. They've come out with diet or sugar-free. They've come out with the wrong kind of bread. They've come out with all kinds of things. That's how they learn. But in that moment, they had to just make a decision.
Yeah.
So the more we can put them in situations where there are gray areas, where they have to just decide. I sent my son in one time and he didn't have enough money on his card. It comes time to pay and his card is declined. And I'm in the car and he's 14. His version of panic.
Yeah.
And he just said, I don't know what to do. And what he needed to do was say, can you place this on hold? I'm going to step aside. I'm going to transfer money. I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish paying.
Mm-hmm.
He just had to say, I don't, there's not enough money on this account. And the cashier said, do you want me to place this on hold? Sure. And he came out and we walked through it and he went back in. And what he learned was, now I know that you can suspend transactions. Now I know that you can ask for help. I know that you can stop and take a pause. We figured it out. And the more those things happen, the more they realize I can handle it.
Yes. It also strikes me he learned the fact that really in most circumstances, other people are willing to help and to guide, which is, I think, equally valuable to know that we don't have to be afraid of all the people that we're interacting with and that most of them are there to help. This in principle sounds really great. And as I said earlier, I know it's difficult for many parents to make that leap from the belief piece into the action piece and knowing where to get started or how to get started. What wisdom and support do you offer, can you offer for those parents who are like, okay, I hear her independence challenges, great. Ordering food, great. And also, I don't know where to start.
Okay. What we do is we just start with the next lesson that presents itself. So don't get overwhelmed with, can you please send me a list of things my kids need to know? No. We're going to say on their path, what's the next thing they encounter? How can I step back, give them the skills they need and watch them try it? Just whatever's next. The next time we go eat, the next time we go through the drive-thru and want to get donuts, the next time they need to make a call to grandma to see if they can come over. Let's start with the next thing that organically comes up.
Yeah.
That's where we'll start. And then we can say, I need to exchange the propane tank on the grill. I'm going to challenge my teenager with it and give him no information. He knows how to Google. He can figure it out. I'm going to challenge him to know what's happening when there's a beeping on the ceiling. And he'll discover, oh, that must be the smoke detector. Here's what this requires. We're going to, little by little, as these things come up, go, I wonder if he knows how to get a key made. Life will give us all of these lessons.
Yeah.
So do not get overwhelmed with a checklist or a curriculum, because life will give a life skills curriculum. If we just say, I'm going to stop doing for them what they can probably or almost do for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true for the littles as well as the big. We've been talking a lot about sort of the teens, but we can start this when they're 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
Maybe they're not Googling how to replace a propane tank, but they can order their mac and cheese.
But they know they want more lemonade.
Yeah.
And so, you know what you have to do to get more lemonade? You have to raise your hand and you have to really loud say, more, please. Can you do it? That's where we start.
Yeah.
We start with what they can do today.
Love it. I know that you have a lot of resources and support in the HR mom community. Can you talk a little bit about that for those parents who are like, I'm willing to do this. I just want somebody on my team as I do it.
You bet. So on Facebook and Instagram, I'm just HR Mom, and I offer a lot of advice. How do we get our kids to be real world ready? And I just give example after example of ways we do it and ways that we've tried that don't work. That's the easiest free way to interact with my content. But then I'm really passionate about that some of the most important skills that can be taught in the home start with basics like chores, ownership, executive functioning, time management, prioritization. So my flagship course is called the Family Chores Reset. And that's where I help families share the load of household chores and graduate our kids into owning their own spaces. Then I have a second course called Alexa, Simplify My Life. And that's a course, how do you delegate the mental load to your kids and help them slowly take on their own schedules and calendars and reminders and morning routines and that kind of thing. And these two classes, I am excited to offer 50% off for anyone who chooses to be VIP Pass owners and upgrades to the VIP Pass for the Safe Parenting Summit. You can lighten your own load while upskilling your kids at the same time at home.
I love that. I love it, love it, love it. And I'm so grateful for that generous offer. For those who don't happen to be VIP Pass holders, I know for you, as I said, I have followed your work on social media for a really long time. Is that the best place for people to find you? Is a newsletter, social media? Where should people go that want more from you right away?
So Instagram and Facebook are the best ways to have just a daily feed. But if you go to hrmom.com, that's where you can see all of the things that I provide. You can get on the newsletter. I have an HR Mom parenting focus group. So that's a $10 a month membership. And that's where people ask the more private questions that you don't want blasted on the internet. That's where we do a lot of one-on-one interaction, a lot of lives and Zoom calls, etc. And I'm thrilled for people with kids of all ages to join the community because we're all doing this together in different ages and stages. We all have the same goal, and that's just real world ready kids who feel confident embarking on the next part of their lives.
Yes. Yeah, and that's true whether they're 4, 14, 24. They still need to be real world ready, which is, as you pointed out very early on in this conversation, is a critical piece of safety, which is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation in the context of the Safe Parenting Summit. I want to wrap up our conversation, Melissa, by asking this question, if I might. For those parents who are saying, okay, I'm on board, I love it, and I want 3 kind of action steps. What are 3 things I could do today, tomorrow, next week to get started with this? Do you have any suggestions for quick return or quick get going action steps for those folks?
Yes. The first action to take is to say, I'm not behind. It's not too late. It's not too early. Mm-hmm. Now is a great time to start. There is no catching up.
Yeah.
There's no shame in this game. We know better. We do better.
Yeah.
Second action I would take is talk to the kids and say, you're ready for whatever's next.
Yeah.
You're ready. We're going to have these games or these challenges because, man, I can't wait to see what you can do.
Love it.
And then the third one is, let's just see if by this weekend they can do one thing for themselves that I used to do for them. They're going to make their own lunch. They're going to call and refill their prescription. Let's just think of one thing by this weekend, and we're going to build on that momentum. The getting started is the hardest part, and we overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
So get rid of the shame. Get the kids prepared for that something's going to change and it's going to be fun. And then think of something by this weekend that can be new.
Oh, I love that because this can happen right now. Parents can get off this interview and say, okay, here's what we're going to do.
I don't need a checklist. Okay. I don't need a curriculum.
Yeah. I love that. Not overcomplicating it.
Yes.
Melissa, this is such great information. It's such an important piece of that big picture safety for our kids, for our world, and for all of us, because the safer we all are, the more capable and confident we feel, our kids feel in navigating the world, the better off for everyone. So thank you for the work that you're doing in the world and for bringing your wisdom, your perspective to the Safe Parenting Summit. I'm so grateful.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to the other sessions.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed that summit interview with Melissa Griffin from the 2023 Safe Parenting Summit. As I mentioned at the start of this, the 2024 summit is just around the corner. It runs May 6th to May 10th, which is the Monday through a Friday. And we have a kickoff call on May 5th at 5 p.m. So you want to make sure that you get registered before then so you get all the information about how to join that kickoff call. Go ahead and go over to thesafeparentingsummit.com right now. You can get on the waiting list. Tickets go on sale April 17th. If you're listening to this after April 17th, you can go ahead and get registered. And right after registration, as I mentioned at the outset, you will have the opportunity to buy lifetime access to the summit, as well as a bunch of really phenomenal bonuses. And when you do that, not only do you get a lot of awesomeness, but you also support the work that I do and the support that all the speakers do. So make sure to grab that ticket. I hope you're having a great week. I know I am, because I'm on vacation. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Cheers.